I want to know how you got to X.
That's like all middle school teachers.
Yeah.
You got it right. Show me your work.
Yeah.
I just did it in my head.
I'm sure that's exactly what you told your math teachers
right.
too. Hello and welcome to yet another edition of Popcorn Bucket List. And I made a little whoopsie. I made a little mistake. I lost track of the days here last week. Some people out there participate in No Shave November.
Ah, yes.
I meant to trim everything before. I forgot to do that because I lost track of days. So is there like an exception to the rule, even though right now, I guess it's the like 6th day of the or something like that? Can I get like a pass, or am I gonna have to let this go out? Because it's already pretty wily.
You gotta let it go. It's November's already started.
Yep.
Now you know November's already started. You can't do anything until the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, stay tuned, folks. Or maybe here, put me on my camera. I'm gonna take a screenshot here. Okay, here's my before, and then we'll check back in. Let's also get one of Ryan. I want to see. And then I'm gonna take a screenshot of that, and then we'll check in at the end of November. This is gonna get messy.
Mine's not gonna look any different.
That's right. It's more your head hair.
It's more this hair and my mustache,
which is a pretty cool mustache. Yeah. I've always said you could. I grow the beard out pretty good, but you got a pretty cool mustache. I think
I enjoy it.
I like it. Anyways, that's enough facial hair talk here today. We are going to be talking about movies, and we're going to talk about a very interesting topic, kind of a last-minute topic here.
Yep.
I know I've been saying that for the last few weeks, a last-minute topic coming in. I swear I plan these out. In some cases, I look like months ahead of time to figure out a topic to talk about here, and then usually like that Friday or the weekend, I'll be like, let's do this instead.
Yeah,
so I'm not as disorganized as I maybe look or sound on this show.
Yeah, we have a couple ideas and things that we want to talk about, but something else will come up or it's like, oh, it's an anniversary of this, or this thing is happening, or there was a new trailer for this, so let's talk about that. That's kind of more so how we do it. Yeah,
I do plan these things sometimes months ahead of time. I think I actually looked at this topic like all the way back in March. I try to plan out the year here.
Yep.
And then like 5 times out of 10, we just scrap it and go with something else Monday morning. So that teaches me to be organized. But the reason why we're changing topics here is because I saw a movie this weekend that reminded me of a topic we had, I would say, briefly touched on many moons ago. In the early days of PBL, we kind of briefly touched on this, and I want to get a little bit more in depth in it. Rotten Tomatoes and how it actually works.
Yes.
The reason why I bring this up is because this weekend I had a chance to check out the movie Freelancer with John Cena and Alison Brie. For any of you who may have been paying attention, the big headline around this movie was it had a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. There we go, right there. Big old goose egg.
Big
for
fatty.
You right there.
Nothing.
Yeah. Does that mean it's as bad as it actually is?
100%.
You're 100% on the 0%?
Yep. 100% on the 0%, 50% of the time. It's like the old Anchorman.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
That's great.
Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I did go see it. Is it good? Well, the first question here is it 0% bad? No. Is it good? No. Can I even recommend it? No, not really. I'm not going to get too much details into it. It's not a great movie, but it didn't like... I've seen far worse movies this year.
I've seen plenty of worse movies than I'm sure what it is. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
you don't need
worse
to.
Movies. Yeah.
You don't really need to be honest. So that begs the question. Why did it get a 0% Rotten Tomatoes rating? That is because the percentage rating that you oftentimes see on the website that they usually plaster on their DVD cases, all that, it doesn't actually mean what you think it means. Mm-hmm. Let's break it down here for you. Let's use Freelancer here as kind of the example.
Okay.
All right. This movie gets 0% Rotten Tomatoes rating. How does that happen? When it's not good, but it's not awful.
Mm-hmm.
because what that rating represents essentially is it essentially is a recommendation. It's kind of like what this show is. I never have really described this show as a review show. I call it a recommend show. Mm-hmm. Yes, in recommending stuff, we'll kind of review things, let people know how we personally think of it. But at the end of the day, we're saying whether or not people should or should not check out a movie for a certain list of reasons. Mm-hmm. The percentages on Rotten Tomatoes are kind of similar in that basically what it's saying is 0% of critics recommend this movie. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean 0% like bad? No, actually, and especially in this case, it does not actually mean 0%. When you actually go into Rotten Tomatoes and actually kind of do a little digging, underneath the 0% tile that is shown on the website, there's actually a little link that says, here's what the top critics are saying. Yep. If you click on that, then you get their actual reviews and their actual scoring of the movie. Now, every critic has their own different scoring percentile. Like some do out of 4 stars, some do out of 5, some do out of 10.
Some do out of 50. You never know.
And that's their prerogative, I guess. Yeah. That's a little complicated for me, I guess. But I prefer the 5-star system here personally. But if you actually looked at the reviews, were any of them glaringly good? No. But more often than not, you would see them kind of rank it out of like 2 out of 5 or 1 and 1.5 out of 4. Is that good? No, not by any means or stretch of the imagination. No, it's not good. However, if you do math on that, instead of it looking like a 0 percentile, it's actually closer to 20 to 40-ish.
20 to 30.
Depending on who you look at.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, is that good? No. But on the surface, it looks like what Rotten Tomatoes is saying is this movie has absolutely no quality, nothing to offer, any of that.
Yep. That's and kind of going back to, like, let's say, for example, 10 people rated the same movie, like 4 out of 10 stars, all of them rated 4 out of 10. That technically would be a very low rating because none of them rated it over 50%. If it's not over 50%, it's not good. It's rotten. So that looks like a 0 when it's not. It's a very middle of the road film. Actually,
to add to that, you bring up that's exactly the point I'm trying to make here. But just as a quick correction, on Rotten Tomatoes, it has to be 60% or higher to be considered fresh. 60%. So it's kind of like when you're in school, you have to have like a passing grade. Yep. You know, D's get degrees, sort of thing. Kind of.
Yes, I do.
That's how that kind of works on Rotten Tomatoes as well. But yeah, but to your point, you still hit the nail on the head here. Even though, let's say those 10 critics all gave it a 4 out of 10 stars, that's a 40 percentile essentially is what they're saying how good or bad this movie is. But because they're all under that 60 percentile threshold and they're under that rotten umbrella, that means based on the website, it looks like 0% on the score that they portray.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how this whole narrative got started or how everyone started thinking that the percentages was the score of how actually good or bad the movie is. I don't know how that all started. I don't think it was Rotten Tomatoes that pushed that narrative. That being said, they have done nothing to correct those wrongs.
Nothing to combat them. But it's also, if that's the company, use that. Use it in your marketing. Yeah, use our scoring in your thing. Use anything you want.
But I would argue it's false advertising if the scoring is being interpreted as one thing when it's another, especially when you look at Freelance. Because now, from here on out, there will be articles forever saying John Cena was in a 0% Rotten Tomatoes movie or whatever, when in reality it just meant all of the critics you saw, which was actually a very small number of critics. It was only like 24 that were in the critics category, which really didn't help the averages either. Basically, they were just like, it wasn't terrible. We just can't recommend it. That's where I was at. Like, there are worse movies.
Yeah.
This year alone. I can't recommend this one, though. But everyone else just looks at the surface and goes, this must be the worst movie of the year because it had a 0%.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So if you are, as Rotten Tomatoes as a company, are going to say, yes, this is the way we want to present our scores, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. But I don't think people realize that's what they're doing. And to further my point earlier on, again, I don't think they created or started this narrative. They haven't done anything to correct it. And in fact, actually, when I researched this a little bit, they've actually made it worse. Because I remember watching a video that showed like old screenshots of Rotten Tomatoes pages and everything. And it used to be you had the big percentage score of whether it was fresh or rotten.
Yep.
And then in very small text, almost fine print below it, it was average review rating, which was the actual number of what the reviewers were saying. So if you had a movie that was like 40% rotten, you could still have it underneath there, say 5.5 out of 10, saying, well, it's not as bad as it's saying.
Yeah.
That was at least on the page. If you go there now, it's not
hidden.
there.
It's not there.
It's not even hidden. It's not there. Like, I had to go and dig for it to find it.
Yeah, and I think some of that, how it's so confusing, I think some of that has to do with Rotten Tomatoes trying to protect themselves, quote unquote, from the review bomb people that would go out and just bomb a movie. Like with, I can't remember, there's a couple movies that it happened to, and that just got either totally tanked. And like one thing that kind of pops in my head was like the Dave Chappelle special that had like a 99.9 audience score, and the critic score was like abysmal, like 0 maybe. I don't know, like it was so completely opposite. But I know they've had controversies in the past, so I almost think they want to make it a little more confusing, so not everybody. So if you try to do those things,
so then it covers them. It's like, well, hey, no, we didn't say this movie was this bad. It was the critics. When in reality, it's not even the critics that are saying it's that bad. They're just saying, look, a small percentage of it just said we don't recommend this movie. We're just saying we'll let you know what's in it and everything, but whether or not you want to watch it or not, that's totally up to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, very similar to this show. At the end of the day, we're going to say our piece. We're going to put our opinion in it, but we try to give as many details as possible so that way you as the viewer can make a decision and whether or not you want to go see it. And I think that's what Rotten Tomatoes could be if they actually owned up to that and like was more transparent in that and said the percentages are just the percentages of how many critics recommend this movie here, and then go back to kind of giving it more and giving it so that you didn't have to click on a link, that the reviews were actually there. So it added to the context and said, this is why. It's kind of like showing your work in a math problem. Well, I know how you got to X. I see you got to X.
Yep.
I want to know how you got to X.
That's like all middle school teachers.
Yeah.
You got it right. Show me your work.
Yeah.
I just did it in my head.
I'm sure that's exactly what you told your math teachers too. So I don't know. Did I cover all that? I tried to cover as much ground in as little time as possible here.
I think it sounded pretty good. It's Rotten Tomatoes will never be perfect. They need to show everything. I think the more statistics they could give, the better, instead of just wiring it down to one number. If it was, yes, it got this, but the critics are saying this. The average person said this. The average audience member said this. this is the average of some other metric that they use. If there was those 5 things all together, that'd be much better picture of what the film is compared to that either certified fresh or rotten. Like,
yeah. Oh, and don't even get me started on how certain things are certified fresh and how aren't. Well, I'm not going to go.
It's garbage.
I'm not going to go that rabbit hole. Now, yeah, I'm not saying don't use Rotten Tomatoes if you have used that as a metric of whether or not you want to watch a movie or not. I'm just saying we're trying to provide a little bit more context.
Yep.
Here's what it actually means when you look at this sort of stuff.
Yep.
And I don't blame people for not knowing that because, again, I think Rotten Tomatoes, again, hasn't pushed this false narrative, but they have done nothing to correct it.
Yep. Nope,
they're hearing people say it wrong, and they're just like they're kind of complicit in it though at the same time because not saying anything is still kind of wrong, I guess.
Not saying something is saying something.
There you go. I do want to end this part of the opening spotlight here with we did kind of talk also earlier. We wanted to look at some movies that were either close to, if not 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and kind of recommend them. Say, hey, these kind of also fall under that freelancer category. Are they great movies?
No.
But are they 0% bad? No, they're not. They're not. They have some value here. I will let you go first because you stole mine, but don't worry. I did come up with an alternate because I knew there was a pretty good chance you were going to do this one too. So I'll let you go first.
So the film that I chose was The Master of Disguise. Dana Carvey, absolutely hilarious film. I watched this when I was a kid, and I thought it was hilarious. Obviously, I think it hit. I watched it at the right time. I haven't seen it for years, but I still remember some of the turtle. Like I remember a lot of those things. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. So was it great? Absolutely not. But was it super funny to me at that time in my life? Yes, it was. And I'm sure if I go back and watch it, I'll still get some good chuckles, but I wouldn't say it's a masterpiece.
The one I'm going to talk about here real quickly, I looked this one up as I was kind of looking through some other 0% scored ones, and I totally forgot about this movie. Max Steel. This came out in 2016, so kind of in the prime time of comic book superhero movies. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the plot of this movie, it's pretty much exactly what Blue Beetle was this year.
Okay.
And Blue Beetle did not get a 0% Rotten Tomatoes score. What I think happened was this was sort of the precursor to the superhero fatigue that we now kind of see. Mm-hmm. The reason why this one kind of got hit first was because it wasn't Marvel. It wasn't DC. It was kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
So then people really dismissed it and gave it a 0%. But if you like Blue Beetle, you'll probably like this one as well.
Good.
With that, let's move on to the weekly preview here, talking about movies that are coming out here this week and weekend. Kicking us off Wednesday, November 8th. So by the time this video is out, this will already be out on Max. You Were My First Boyfriend. So this trailer, okay, I'm going to say what I think it was, and I'm curious if you got the same vibe or not, because it was very confusing, but I think they're really trying something cool here, but it was really confusing. So it's a documentary, but also kind of not. It's a hybrid documentary, so there's going to be scenes where they kind of shoot like a narrative film sort of thing, which I find that really interesting. I've always kind of wanted to do something like that. And it's about a woman who kind of reflects on her time in high school and how she dealt with bullying and all that. Mm-hmm. And I think she goes to a school reunion, and it's like, why would you go back to those people who made your life a living heck?
Yeah.
And all that. Is that the vibe you got?
That's the vibe I got.
Okay.
And yeah.
So what do you think?
I think it's too mellow, emotional for me. I watched it and I was like, oh,
but how was your high school experience?
It was pretty good.
See, that's my point. Is I think you and me don't relate to this because I've said this before. I was the king of the averages. Mm-hmm. I like to think I flew just right below that radar. No. Where it's like I was there, but I didn't stand out.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anything to really complain about.
See,
not everyone had that experience, though.
Yeah, and I do feel bad because like I wasn't a part of like the cool kids crowd, but I had like a good core group of friends, and we were kind of not really in either of like the big not big cliques, but like the clique things. So I don't know. I enjoyed high school. I had a lot of fun. But like this whole, I don't know. But you know what? It did remind me of. Was it the social? Not the social dilemma. Was that the video that came out a couple years ago about?
I think so. Yeah.
About like Facebook and Twitter and like all of those.
Yeah,
it was kind of that same thing. It was kind of that documentary, but then there was also the narrative of the kid with his family, and you could see him like inside the thing looking. Yeah, like that's what it reminded me of.
If you could go back,
mm-hmm.
would you redo some things, or would you kind of try to keep it as similar as possible? Understand the thing is, if you start changing things, I'm going to throw in some time warp continuum stuff here too, where you may actually break the universe.
Yes,
or you may not.
I would change a few things.
I would
invest.
Okay, actually, I'm gonna make this more challenging actually, because I don't like that answer. That's too much of a cop out answer.
That's what I would do.
If you go back,
yep.
Your only options are to keep it exactly the same, and you're just kind of experiencing it again, just so you can say experience it again, yep. Or you have to do almost everything differently. And I'll even throw away the whole time. Like, the universe will be fine.
I would say, that's a great question. Because
see, I made it more challenging for you.
I wouldn't like to go back and live through everything. That just wouldn't be fun or interesting for me. The sentimental value of, like, the things I did in high school, they're great, but I don't want to relive them. But going back and doing everything completely opposite, I think that would be
not even
fun.
Necessarily the opposite, just different decisions.
I think it would be fun, but then I don't know how that would affect me to like where I am right now. So like I might, if I did that, I might not be here.
No, like, I'm saying like the time continuum would be like stable. You'd be fine. You just got to change. You just can't re-experience everything.
I'd rather experience everything completely new than relive.
So you would change
done.
everything and everything too.
Yep.
Okay. So you'd make a split timeline thing. Okay.
Yep. And then I would eventually get to where the other Roddenbergs of all the other universes we came together and like Kang would be. I would become Kang. That's what would happen.
It wouldn't be the quantum medium. It'd be the Ryan medium.
Yes, it would be awesome. That's what would happen.
I would go back and I would actually experience everything the same way, only because then I could finally settle an argument I had with one of my friends that I feel like today, if I brought it up, we'd still be debating this.
Yeah.
Even though I've provided circumstantial evidence as to my point.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even, I'm not even going to get into the argument because it's not worth it. Yeah. It's not even an argument. It was just a debate of the location of where he said a joke.
Okay.
We've still debated this. I say it didn't happen here. I said it happened here. And he said, no, I'm pretty sure I did it here. Why we're still arguing about this? I don't know. Why am I petty enough to go back in time just to relive all of high school for one moment so I can prove him right? Yeah, I'm that petty. Yeah, I'm going to do it.
There you go.
That's going to be me. Anyways, let's move on here. Let's talk about some other movies coming out. Here's the big one. Friday, November 10th. The Marvels coming to theaters.
Can't wait.
The next chapter in the MCU. This time we're teaming up Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, and Monica Rambeau. I can't remember what her superhero name that they were going for with her was.
Monica Rambeau, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just, I feel like she's probably going to have like, if she doesn't already have like a superhero name, she'll have one probably.
Did she get powers in the last movie?
She got powers in WandaVision.
Oh, in WandaVision. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how she got her powers and everything. Okay, I'm going to say my piece, and then I'm going to let you have it so then everyone can attack you and your thoughts and everything. I'm super looking forward to this one. Mainly because of the actor who plays Kamala Khan in these. Yep. I really loved the Ms. Marvel TV show. I'm not going to say it was revolutionary. I'm not going to say it was the best thing the MCU has ever put out there, but I loved her in it, and I cannot wait to see her interact with these other big adult heroes. This kid. This is essentially when Spider-Man was hanging out with Tony Stark and Iron Man.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same sort of vibe here. You got the young buck trying to get some mentors to her and everything like that, and just her geeking out around it and everything. Just her being like, we're a team, and that little puppy dog face she does. Like, I love her. I love her, this actress, and I love her as this character. So I'm looking forward to that alone. Yeah, the CGI doesn't look great in the trailer. We know that going in at this point. I don't know if you can blame the visual effects artist knowing what we know now. Just going to have to deal with that. I'm hoping it'll answer some questions. I'm hoping it'll set some stuff up. I'm hoping it'll set some X-Men stuff up.
That'd be cool.
That's the reason why I put that poster up there.
Be a good redeeming quality for the movie. That'd be for sure.
Now for the flip side. Attack him. Boo. Boo that man.
You can take all. I will take it. That's fine. The one I'm going to lead off with. When was this film originally supposed to come out? A year ago. Roughly. A year ago. How many times did they have to do reshoots? 1,000,000 times. I don't know what the story of this story is going to be. At first, it's a buddy team up cop movie, and then all of a sudden there's an intergalactic baddie, and who knows what's going to happen. I think this movie is not going to do very well, and I think it's going to be bad for Marvel. I could be wrong. I'm totally fine being wrong. If it comes out and it's a good movie, then I'll eat my words. That's totally fine. But I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping this movie's really good.
I'm totally fine with you being wrong too.
But I'm afraid it's not going to do very well, and I'm afraid people aren't going to like it.
Okay, so I will actually agree with you on one of those points there. I do think box office wise, it's not going to do well, but only because of if some of the initial reports we're looking at here. This was an expensive
Very expensive movie.
And
well, the just alone, they spent millions of dollars on reshoots alone.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good.
Yeah, and it's just Marvel's track record recently.
The past
Black Panther 2 was pretty successful, I guess, but that was kind of the last one.
Yeah, well, I would say Guardians of the Galaxy was, but I don't really view that as Marvel.
That was kind of its own separate. Fans knew going into that was going to be the last adventure. This may be the last time you see some of these characters. So I agree with you. That may be.
Yeah.
And also with Black Panther 2, you kind of want to see how they dealt with the Chadwick Boseman thing. I will agree with you on that one thing. I think financially this movie is destined to fail.
Yep.
Even if it does good, it won't be good by Marvel standards, and it needs to do really, really, really good, nearly Endgame levels. Maybe not quite Endgame.
Did you see the last trailer that they just put out had like Tony Stark, it had Captain America, it had Thanos in it. Very callback to the Avenger, or callback to Endgame, and it's like half this minute-long teaser is Endgame stuff. Like, there's
remember when we had those characters? You loved those characters, right? Maybe they'll show up. I don't know, probably not, but I mean, maybe.
So I mean, like,
it is kind of feel like they're holding the carrot, but it's actually like a plushy carrot.
Yeah,
it's not even a real carrot.
So, and like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I hope this movie's awesome. I hope it's great. I hope it makes a ton of money, but I just don't see it happening. But like I said, stranger things have happened. The Northman didn't get nominated for an Oscar.
You've got to stop with the North. You got to let that go, man.
Strange things happen.
You need to talk to a therapist about the Northman. I think at this point, like, it's bad.
You need to talk to SAG is what I need to talk to.
Well, they're a little busy right now, so I don't know. I don't know if they're really up to another time.
I don't really know if they're that busy right now.
Some of SAG-AFTRA members are busy right now.
Yes.
Impacting local and regional communities.
Building connections with peers, professors, and community members.
Collaboration with like-minded individuals.
Opportunities to make a difference both in and outside of the classroom.
Experiential learning.
Student-led organizations and projects.
Find out more on the upcoming podcast series focused on the Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at SMSU.
All right, let's move on here before we piss off anyone else. The Holdovers. This is something I think are on the same page here. Paul Giamatti stars in this movie set in the 1970s at a boarding school during Christmas time here. Is Paul Giamatti one of the best actors we have?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. No debate there. There we go.
I remember
you heard it here first, folks.
I first really started following this guy when he was in the Frankie Muniz movie, Big Fat Liar.
Yeah.
And like thinking like this guy.
He was an introduction.
Dingleberry.
Probably was an introduction to a lot of young fans.
Yeah, and then as I grew up, and it was like, oh, this dude is awesome. Seeing him in all kinds.
Because
of
no
things.
teenager is watching Sideways or
yes,
like anything before that. No, I gotta agree with you on that one. It was cool of him to kind of do a kids movie like that and still do a great job.
Yeah.
Like he maybe is one of the best actors we have out there.
He's the
potentially.
Man. He's the man.
So I would say probably check this one out. We may have some Oscar buzz here.
Yeah,
I think if there's not at least a few acting categories here, then I don't know what we're doing anymore. But.
I remember watching when the trailer first came out, probably almost a year ago. I gotta say, when we saw it in theaters, and I was like, "This movie looks awesome."
Actually, I remember a different story of one of the first times I saw this trailer. I'm going to interject here. I don't know if maybe it wasn't a year ago, but the first time I think I saw this trailer was more than a few months ago, probably in the summer. And I remember we were at the movie theater doing like a Thursday night showing. I can't remember of what, but you were super excited because you knew this was the movie going to be the premiere for the first Exorcist Believer trailer.
Oh yeah.
And I had beaten you guys into the theater. I was the first one in there, as I usually was, because you guys dilly-dally, and I get sick and tired of waiting. I'm not wrong.
Okay.
I'm not wrong.
I didn't say you were wrong.
Your face did.
You were wrong.
Anyways, so I sat in there, and you were talking my ear off all day leading up to this point. Man, I can't wait for this Exorcist trailer. I can't wait for this Exorcist trailer. So I sit down, and the first trailer that pulls up is Holdovers, and I'm like, is this The Exorcist? Is Paul Giamatti in the Exorcist franchise now? And then you walked in and you're like, oh, is this The Exorcist? Because what's also interesting about this movie is they intentionally give it a 1970s like film vibe.
Yep.
And so I knew The Exorcist was an older movie. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's what they're doing here. So I was like, and so you walked in and you're like, oh, what is this? And I'm like, I think it's your Exorcist trailer. You're like, really? And we kind of watch it, and it's just this kid in the boarding school, and I'm like, this is a weird Exorcist movie. Yeah. And it ends in that freeze frame of Paul Giamatti, and it just says The Holdovers, and I turned to you, I was like, oh, turns out it wasn't The Exorcist.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, I thought that was The Exorcist trailer.
That's funny.
Anyways, that's all I got to say about this one. Paul Giamatti is going to be great, and I'm sure everyone around him is going to be great, too.
Yep.
Also coming out this weekend, another documentary, Albert Brooks, Defending My Life, coming straight to Max. This is being produced and essentially hosted by one of Albert Brooks' longest friends, Robert Reiner.
Rob Reiner?
Rob Reiner. Is it Rob or Robert? Rob. I always just figured the full name was Robert, but it may just be Rob.
Well, yeah, but he goes by Rob.
He goes by Rob, but is his full name Robert? Anyways, that's not the point. Anyways, it basically talks about the life and career of Albert Brooks. And obviously he's still alive, so they're able to kind of sit down and talk to him and kind of get his own perspective and give so many other comedians a perspective of his career as well. Probably one of the more interesting quotes I thought was from David Letterman, who was being interviewed by this. And he goes, I wish I had Albert's career.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, because David Letterman has had quite a career himself, arguably. And I'll admit, Albert Brooks, not as caught up in all my Albert Brooks stuff.
Yep. I've seen a few things. I know who he is, but they were talking about some films in there or some of his comedy stuff too. And it's like, I haven't seen that. I don't know what that is. But I do know I've seen him before. So,
a lot of people probably.
I just wasn't super familiar.
Yeah, a lot of people probably remember him as the voice of Marlin from Finding Nemo, obviously.
Yep.
Talk about an early 2000s movie that introduced us to someone here. Probably when we were younger, that was probably our first introduction to him there. So I'm probably going to be checking this one out just because, so many comedians talk so highly of him, and I just don't know as much about this guy's career. And it feels like I'm missing a huge gap of history there. And so I gotta rectify that wrong. Hopefully this weekend. Rounding out this weekly preview here, The Killer, coming straight to Netflix. Michael Fassbender here. Apparently he wanted to star in an assassin movie that's actually good.
Yeah.
So then he did this one.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm talking about you, Assassin's Creed. Still not forgiving you for that. But yeah, this one looks actually more than awesome. This one looks fantastic in my book.
It looks very well. It has the producers of 7. I don't remember what else was on the list, but it looks awesome. It looks very stylized, very gritty, and Michael Fassbender is just an amazing actor. Yeah, it's going to be great.
If you can get Michael Fassbender into a very malevolent role, he kills it. Again, I put up the X-Men poster for a reason. He's got some of the best scenes in X-Men First Class.
Yep. Yeah.
Even before he truly became Magneto, he was like one of the
guy.
He's one of the That's one way to put it. You're not wrong.
And then some people did some bad things to him and his family, the people around him.
Yeah.
How else are you going to put that?
All right, yeah. Don't really know how to end this one, but yeah.
I'll go. I really enjoyed him in Alien, Prometheus.
He was in that one and Alien Covenant.
Yep.
So yeah, he was good in those ones. He's probably one of the only good things about those two.
Yeah.
Actually, if I think about it. Anyways, let's wrap up this episode here as we usually do with another round of number one recommends. Ryan, why don't you kick us off here? What are you recommending this week?
This week, I finally got caught up on, I believe it was a Shudder original, 101 Scary Movie Moments or horror moments in movies. I started it before Halloween. I'm almost all the way through, and I absolutely love it. It's their hour-long episodes. I think there's 8 of them, and they just kind of go through like 10 to 15 scary movies and moments from those scary movies that I've seen when I was a kid, a few movies I haven't seen, and a few movies I'm definitely going to check out. Just fantastic watch, short 5 minutes about some movie that's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that was creepy. Or they give some behind the look on how they did things, like the American Werewolf in London. I mean, they talk about that all the time. So like, there's just cool things that are awesome that I really enjoyed about that show.
I'm going to quickly talk about the movie Le Mans, mainly because I was able to check this one out at the Marshall-Lyon County Library and didn't mean to watch it, just was looking for something else, and then it caught my eye. I was like, I need to rewatch this one. Still awesome as ever. Still one of the greatest motorsports movies, as we kind of discussed on this show here before. I stand by that. And so if you want to see some early Steve McQueen in an awesome racing movie, that's a very specific niche,
specific niche.
It'll check that box for you here. I highly recommend it, so go check that one out.
All right.
But that's going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. The Marshall 6 Theater is doing a giveaway this month.
What?
Didn't know we were adding sound effects to this one,
sir.
but here we are. You could win an awesome polar bear, a toy one.
Coca-Cola licensed polar bear.
Unfortunately, we're not sponsored by them, which would be nice.
True.
But like I said, a toy polar bear, not an actual polar bear.
Coca-Cola polar bear.
Want to point that out.
You got to say it's the Coca-Cola polar bear because it says Coke on there on the thing.
Okay.
It's the Coca-Cola
Okay,
polar
fine.
bear.
You could win the Coca-Cola polar bear here. Christmas coming around the corner here. Could be a good toy to get for a kid here. Be a pretty fun thing.
Mm-hmm. And I could be wrong, but I believe $25 gift card.
Yes, I totally forgot about that. I forgot. Yes, that is being thrown in by the manager, Jada. She's throwing that in herself, so a little extra prize there. Head on over to the CEC Marshall 6 Theater on Facebook. We should have some posts going up there. If you kind of interact with them, you should be entered into the drawing, which will occur at the end of this month. But yeah, go and check that out. Pretty fun bear to play with.
Yeah.
For myself and Ryan Meyerberg, I'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at the movies.